Download.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome everybody to Dynamite Download, your home for all positive coverage on all elite wrestling. Got your host Crayfish here with my co-host SPD. And man, this week's show was jam-packed. SPD, in preparation for Dynamite Download, we were looking it over. There are 11 different segments that we're going to be chatting about with you guys and girls tonight. And when you look at that card, my goodness, they are certainly jam-packing everything in right before beach break. There's so much going on, SPD. What a card that we had in store for the fans tonight. And really, there were several matches on this show that felt like could have been the main event of this card. You threw it up there first. Let's go through the match results with the team. Guys and girls, I was expecting Eddie versus Lance Archer to be the main event of this show. That one was a hard-hitting, powerful match. And my goodness, I can't wait to talk about what a brutal chop fest that Eddie put on in that match. He actually came out on top against the Murder Hawk Monster. Those of you who might not have seen the feed, there were some issues going on. You know that our team here will catch you up on everything that you had in store there. SPD, we had a great interview with Griff Garrison. And he promised he was going to put his fists on MJF.
Yeah, and he did right away. He delivered on his promise for sure. And it was nice to see those two guys get a start and kind of piggyback off the trash talking that they were doing online, calling them Goldilocks and all that, which we'll get into more depth later. But Chris Jericho and MJF, the new tag team of the Inner Circle, comes out on top with an impressive Varsity Blondes. And like you said, we were going back and forth, texting back and forth of what could have been the main event, what should have started this card. And we only predicted the main event, just the Young Bucks, but it was a stacked card that was impressive.
Yeah. Well, speaking of impressive blondes, we got to see Ryan Nemeth, the Hollywood hunk, go one-on-one with Hangman Adam Page. And we got to see a lot of stuff happen after that match that I think the internet is going to be buzzing about. Big Money Matt showed up.
That's for sure.
Certainly something interesting on that one.
And I know you are geeking out about this one, Jungle Boy defeating Dax Harwood, and that was quite the impressive showing for both of those. And and we rounded out with Britt Baker coming out on top, and we got to see our resident Thunder Rosa, who we're huge fans for.
Oh yeah.
And so Britt Baker comes out on top against Shanna, and then the main event.
The main event was stacked. You got to see two different companies tag team champions on the same team. So you got the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers going against the Dark Order, and we haven't had a chance to see the Dark Order in tag action. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, this was the first time we've seen him on Dynamite in a long time, so it was really great seeing both tag teams from the Dark Order get a chance to shine tonight. Unfortunately, they did not find a way to beat those champs, but obviously the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers are at the top of the mountain for a reason. So speaking of being at the top of the mountain, when it comes to the AEW landscape, there are few who are as intimidating as Lance Archer. This guy continues week in, week out to showcase why he is clearly one of the most feared men in all of professional wrestling. SPD,
is he ever?
My gosh, I know that you are such a fan. I mean, we've talked about it at length about Eddie Kingston's chops. For the majority of the match, Lance's chest was as red as his hair. I mean, it was beat red, brother. I mean, he took some of those chops, and Kingston was laying into him. JR and the announce team was really talking about how from the minute this match started, Kingston's approach was really that he had to go in thinking about how am I going to chop this big man down, and he literally was trying to chop Lance Archer down. It was brutal, man.
I mean, he's a big redwood tree, man. That's the only way you're going to get him off his game. I mean, this was by far the most physical match in the entire show, and as we expected it.
It was.
I mean, it delivered on every aspect. It was extremely hard hitting, extremely fun to watch, and we love Lance Archer and we love Eddie Kingston, but Lance time and time again has just proven why he needs to be at the top of the food chain with some of the moves. I mean, just the top rope walk that he does is absolutely, in the backflip,
That was
absolutely insane. Oh, I love that move. It is so great, and for a guy his size to be able to do that kind of stuff, it's so impressive, and it's not something you see all the time. And it just, look at this visual. It's just
that's a
so
great visual. Good capture there. I mean, it's one thing to see a guy who can choke slam somebody and deliver some of the. I mean, I love the momentum that Lance builds in those corner charges that he just comes running in like a freight train.
Knock the breath out of you.
I love that. But like you mentioned, SPD, there are very few big men who can scale the top rope like that and do a backflip. His athleticism was on display tonight. We got to give Lance his props, even though he came up in the end, he ended up getting outsmarted but it showed maybe the advantages that Kingston had. I mean, obviously Kingston has built a family of people he can trust. Lance has always taken pride in the fact that he's a lone wolf, and it unfortunately came back to bite him tonight.
It did, but I still think he impressed everyone by far. I mean, yes, Eddie Kingston had to cheat to win and had to have, help with Butcher, Blade, and Bunny and the whole shebang. And, we talked about this time and time again, how we could cycle through Lance, Eddie, Butcher, Blade, PAC, Ray, and Penta. Any two combination, any three combination, any four, five, all of them are going to put on, 5-star matches, fun, hard hitting matches to watch. And they're leading the charge for the next wave of AEW stars for sure. And where it goes from here, I mean, this is far from over. I mean, we saw online with Lance with that black eye that he got from Eddie from that, weapon that he used to help, secure the victory.
The bunny kind of slid those taped up brass knucks to Eddie, and man, Eddie delivers that spinning back fist pretty brutally normally, but you throw in some brass knuckles. There's no wonder why the Murder Hawk came away with a legit shiner after this match. I mean, that was legit. And they had some back and forth on social after this one. Eddie kind of was talking about how he came on top, he won, and Lance just kind of wanted to let him know. Did you really? Because this ain't over yet, brother. It's far from over. I have a feeling that this is going to continue on, especially after what we saw at the end there. Let's talk about whether or not this gets an elite or delete out of you and why. And then we'll kind of get into the end of the match and sort of what that leads into going forward.
Yeah, this is definitely an elite. I mean, I don't think they could have done anything where it would have been a delete for me. And if I was Eddie Kingston or Butcher and Blade or anybody in Lance Archer's path, I'd be running for the hills. Like I messaged him. I said, they can run, but they can't hide. He's coming for you and everybody will die. So, I mean, it is a scary time to be in anyone's sights of Lance Archer. That's for sure. Because
no doubt.
You're poking the bear even more. And I wouldn't want any part of it the way he's been performing in the ring. So hands down elite for me.
No doubt. Anytime that a match ends in shenanigans, it's gonna be controversial, right? I mean, I know that some fans are gonna be a little disappointed that we didn't get a clean finish, or that Lance was distracted for as long as he was. But you got to think too. I mean, you mentioned it last week. Jake's older now, and you can see for the first time you can start to see, Jake's body. He's immortal, he's a man, and you could see, he's, for him to get beat up and manhandled by Butch and Blade, who are in the peak of their physical careers right now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You can understand why Lance, even though he has this warpath mentality, you can understand why he was distracted. This is a mentor who's been by his side since day one of debuting in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that even though JR mentioned, it might have been might have actually turned out to hurt Lance, sending Jake into the back. His mindset was there. He knew this was going to be a violent match. He knew this was going to be just a beat him up brawl, and he wanted to keep Jake safe, right? And so I think that this whole lone wolf mentality of Lance Archer, when we talk about that in the grand scheme of things, even Eddie talked about how Jake is a snake, and don't be surprised if he ends up biting you in the end. And I think that they're starting to try to plant seeds of division between Jake and Lance. Kingston's always trying to think of how he can get the one up on his competition.
Right.
If he can plant seeds of doubt or plant that sort of question in Lance's mind, if he needs Jake, or if Jake's a distraction, or if Jake holds him back, it certainly would add another layer of complexity to this story. I mean, as if we need more to this story. Right? There's so much going on. It's such a great storyline. There's so much animosity going on in this one. I'm really fascinated to see where it goes, and I'm certainly happy. I mean, I'm happy that it didn't have a clean finish, because I want to see more. I want to see this continue to play out. I think they did a nice job of protecting both guys. They both came out looking like $1 million at the end of this. Definitely a lead out of me, man. No doubt. And so out of that, SPD, when we talk about some of the layers and complexity of storylines, even Jon Moxley in his promo was talking about, man,
very interesting.
First PAC and the Death Triangle hate me because first Lucha and Penta hate me, or Phoenix and Penta hate me because they were paired up with Kingston's family, and now they're my teammates. And he was even talking at length about how the complexities and the layers of the relationships going on in AEW, how it kind of creates a convoluted mess sometimes. And Mox is just kind of sitting here watching all this play out. He just wants to hurt somebody, you know what I mean?
I know. And I mean, he did a good job of kind of, explaining everything the best you could in a short amount of time. And it does make sense, because it's like, 1 minute we're enemies, 1 minute we're fighting on the same side and have common enemies and common goals. So it was a short and powerful segment. We saw a couple of those short and powerful ones tonight on Dynamite, as this didn't need any more hype. I mean, he really did give us that extra hype for that 6-man tag, and how he loves the gang warfare. And I loved at the end how he just said, "Don't blink," and so it was a powerful promo. I liked what he had to say. And then we got a, nice little surprise of Mox at the end of the show too, to really further that.
Mox is always great on the mic, and we all love what he can do as far as building up big match feel, right? He's one of the best in the business when it comes to reeling in the audience. I think one of the cool things about this, though, is that it showed, obviously Mox is always wired so tight. It kind of showed a little bit looser side of Mox. I mean, he joked around a little bit about his sex life with Renee. He joked, he admitted the craziness of the storyline he's finding himself in, where he's now all of a sudden he's supposed to be teaming with guys that hated him. I think we got to see a little lighter side of Mox, which was nice, considering there's so much of the violence that we've seen out of Mox over the course of his career. I liked it. I thought it worked out well, and certainly it only set the tone for what we saw later in the night. So it was well done by Mox, as always, a total professional. And that segued into another promo from another total professional, a guy who's got a lot of experience cutting promos over the years, Sting. And Darby Allin cut a backstage promo.
Yeah, man, they looked really good next to each other. I really liked the way this promo was put together, and I think it was one of Sting's better ones so far since he's been in AEW.
For sure.
And it was a great way to add more hype to this. I loved how they were in the streets. This background was so cool with the glass, and how Darby's like, it doesn't matter if you play clean or dirty. It's all about survival. And we know Darby's going to play dirty, and he's going to survive and do some crazy stuff. And Sting as well. He's got that baseball bat, his signature baseball bat. And so they really set the tone for the Hoodlums versus Team Taz.
Yeah.
And, we're all rooting for the Hoodlums, but Team Taz is a mean crew that, not many people want to get past, which we saw later in the show. So this was a great promo. Once again, another short, sweet, and powerful one that was well done.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that we were most intrigued by with the announcement of the street fight was sort of the cinematography and the creativity that we thought was going to come into this, right? We knew that Darby in particular has shown a real knack for going off the beaten path with his promo work. With, he's willing to test the boundaries of what wrestling fans are used to. He's not going into the middle of the ring and cutting a simple promo. That's not his cup of tea usually. He's got this artistic side to him. And this was a really great way of, I think, building that aura, building that mystique for the street fight, setting the stage and the tone for what we're going to get our hands on. I mean, Darby and Sting embraced being called hoodlums by the end of this promo. First off,
they ever?
Sting at first was kind of like showing that he was insulted at the beginning of the promo, and by the end, he realized, your criticism of me is quite fitting. I can't wait to show you what kind of hoodlum I am. Basically, right. I mean, and breaking all the glass windows with his baseball bat. I can't wait. I think that this one's going to be really well done. I have a lot of confidence that AEW is going to put all these performers in the best scenario to look good. And I'm really excited about where this is going to go. And I have confidence.
Yeah. If it involves Darby's cinematography skill, it's going to be a home run for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. Well, let's get into what you and I were excited about as far as a home run. I mean, there was no doubt the Dynamite Download team we were geeked. We were jazzed about seeing MJF and Jericho going against the Varsity Blondes. We had a chance to talk to Griff Garrison, and we really were to me, I was impressed by the work ethic that this kid has. He talked at length about his training regimen and all that he's been willing to put in to try to really build and craft his skill set. I mean, and we saw it on display, SPD. We saw that burst and that athleticism. I mean, this kid was jumping through the ceiling on that stinger splash. His double spear on Jericho and MJF. I mean, we talked to him about how he has gotten a lot of Edge comparisons, and some of it obviously is because of his look, but that spear did Edge proud tonight. I think that obviously MJF and Jericho came out on top, and they have to that we have to give them their give the devil their due. MJF and Jericho continue to deliver, but I came away I thought that Griff Garrison and the Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr., they both looked, I mean, he was like a house on fire during this match.
Oh, yeah, he was.
I mean, right there, you see, I mean, he was pushing, both those kids were pushing the pace. This one was one of those tag matches that really established from an early going, obviously they have history with each other, but I think beyond just that history, it established what the Varsity Blondes can do moving forward as far as their athleticism, their like the crowd response that they get. It's easy for the fans to get behind these kids.
It really is. And, we could see that early on in their creation. And now they got the matching gear, which I love the matching gear and the matching trunks. And they really set the pace. They started off strong. I liked how MJF and Griff Garrison really started things off, and he cut the promo to kind of bring it all full circle. And we talked about it on our show. And sure enough, Griff Garrison gave him the hands. MJF got the hands right off the bat. And so he looked very strong at first, and Pillman and Jericho, they shared the ring a little bit together a few weeks ago when it was the Inner Circle versus Best Friends and Friends. And they looked awesome with chemistry. It was fun to watch them, and I was hoping they'd get a one-on-one match down the line, but this tag match definitely had some great chemistry moments. All four guys looked strong. All four guys had some high points. And like you said, the double splash in the corner by Griff and then the double spear was some really impressive stuff. And of course we have an excellent top rope Judas effect on Pillman, and then a clean, smooth as butter lion salt from the GOAT himself, Chris Jericho. So
that smile that he gave, that smile after hitting that perfect lion salt and finishing the match.
I got a photo of that for you.
And just staring dead into the camera and smiling at all the negative people, all the critics.
I loved it.
Oh man, that was
Just pretty much saying F you to haters gonna hate. Look at me now. Look at me now.
Look at that smile. That's a classic. That's going to be a meme for us for a long, long time. I really love that. I love that Jericho, again, he always has that ability. And I think that's why he's such a natural fit with MJF. They always have that ability to find unique, creative, funny ways to rub it in a little bit. They both seem to really find joy in humiliating or proving people wrong.
For sure.
And I felt like this was a great example. Jericho hitting that lion salt was a phenomenal way to end it. And honestly, we've spent most of this review talking about everybody but MJF. But I want to say, like, when we do get to see MJF in the ring, the guy, this is the thing. I love MJF, and I compare him to Britt Baker a lot. Usually because I have to be an advocate for Britt Baker. Usually it's because I'm trying to explain to other people that Britt is more than just talk. And MJF is a perfect example of that. Yeah, he's phenomenal on the mic. We all know that. He's such a natural. He's so smooth. He lives and breathes Maxwell Jacob Friedman. He is that. And at some points, it feels like because his character is so larger than life, his in-ring work almost gets overshadowed sometimes. And tonight was an example. I can't wait to talk about this Dax versus Jungle Boy match. But in a lot of ways, MJF wrestles to me very similar to Dax in that, like, there's a lot of brawling. There's a lot of that kind of posturing. He talks a lot of trash. Always a very smart wrestler, always playing and manipulating the rules, manipulating the fans, always very cognizant of the fact that this is, at the end of the day, this is a show that is meant to pull the fans in and get us on that emotional roller coaster. And I think that MJF does that as well as anybody in the business right now.
Honestly, who's better than him that overall with who can walk the walk, talk the talk 24/7. We got a great endorsement today from him too, calling Dynamite Download the drizzling shits. So we'll take that as, like you said, getting that from MJF is a 5-star review for sure.
No doubt.
So we'll take that any day. And, I agree, man. I want to see more. I hope this tag team of the Inner Circle gets more action just so we can see MJF more in the ring. He's featured a lot on the mic, which he just is a show stealer with the stuff he can say. But when he does get in the ring, he really does wow us. And he's got some great technical skills. He's got some great pacing, some great tactics, and some great body language and things like that. So overall, kid's got it all. We'll take his endorsement. And what's growing on me, when I first heard it, I wasn't wild about it, but now the second time around, the mixed MJF Judas theme song is growing on me, and you could see Jericho just smiling and just to the singing along. That probably never gets old, and so that is growing on me. That match for sure is an elite from me. It was just the pacing and the talent in the ring. It's hard to beat, man. That was a great match.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this up. The elite for sure. Again, I want to emphasize, we are so excited about the potential that a Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman have as a tag team. We talked to Griff about the future of this team, and he recognizes a year is they just got started.
Right.
As they continue to build chemistry and as they continue to have matches with teams like this, you're gonna see them grow, get more polished. But that said, man, so much love of Griff is because of how young and how high his ceiling is. Sometimes we forget how young MJF is. And I just want to emphasize that MJF himself hasn't even hit 25 years old, guys. This guy has such a high ceiling.
Jeez.
We don't talk about it because he comes off as so polished. He seems like he's an industry veteran, and it's such a great pairing with Jericho. I'm excited to see where it goes. Obviously, I think that having Jericho involved in a tag team with MJF is great because, one, it gives us an opportunity to see Jericho every week in the ring, which is great. But it also kind of allows him to have those moments where he can allow MJF to get the character work, allow MJF to get the rub, allow MJF to get a little more ring time, like you talked about.
Yeah.
And I think AEW is being smart with MJF. You don't want to just overexpose him and throw him into a singles run right now per se, because we saw him lose to Moxley last year.
Mm-hmm.
We were campaigning that he really was ready to take that belt.
We were.
I don't want to see him get into a scenario where he gets another title shot and comes up short. MJF works so well because of his ego, because of his sort of over the top, overinflated sense of self, and that has to be based in reality somewhat.
Right.
And so I think they're doing a really nice job of protecting MJF, protecting future feuds with MJF. Right? You don't want to like AEW has a loaded roster, but you want to have people salivating at potential matchups down the road, and they really have us excited for what's to come. The Inner Circle, when that team breaks up, which I don't want that to happen anytime soon.
No, me either.
But when it happens, we've talked about it. MJF was crapping all over Wardlow tonight. We'll talk about it in the Sammy and Wardlow or the Sammy and MJF promo later in the night. But this is a great example of storytelling, and I think long-term booking. They've done a nice job for both sides of this match.
For sure. And we can't wait to see what happens next. I mean, we don't know what's on the store. There's nothing announced for the Inner Circle just yet at Beach Break, but I know they'll be making an appearance, that's for sure. And who's making a huge appearance is PAC, and he cut another one of his promos where he's in that like creepy loft. I loved how that was kind of like his re-debut, where he was doing these, bizarre like schizo promos. He's clowning back, or he's going back and forth, and he cut some great promos on the mic too. He's so underappreciated, underrated on the mic work that he can do. And how he was calling Don Callis a clown, and so it was a quick, powerful segment, and it's nice that AEW can squeeze in these short promos that are so helpful and so powerful. I keep saying powerful because it is. That's the only word I have for that promo.
I mean, for me, SPD jumping in there, it's like you've talked about this at length. Their roster is so loaded. It's really important that they do little things like this to keep people fresh, to keep people at the top of your, tip of your tongue, on your mind. You're not forgetting about PAC. You recognize he's still very much a part of the main event scene.
Yep.
He's still very much an impact player in this company. And just a small segment like that, it instantaneously gives him a little bit of time on the show without, having to play a role in other aspects of the show. But it keeps him on top of your mind. And that AEW needs to continue to do things like that because their roster is so stacked. There's only so much time, that you can dedicate. And it's important that you give certain feuds and certain superstars this kind of opportunity. Anytime that PAC has those kind of moments too, as a diehard PAC fan, I mean, he truly is my favorite wrestler in the world. I'll say it over and over again. I think that it's recognized that he's incredible. He's got the opposite of the MJF and Britt Baker problem, where PAC is clearly recognized as one of the great performers in the ring. What he can do between his athleticism, his strength, his burst. Nobody is really doubting what he can do in the ring, but he doesn't get a lot of credit for his character work. And this is an example where this dude lives and breathes intensity. You kept saying powerful. This dude he's got this seething power inside of this anger. I've seen him compared to the honey badger, and it's very much like he's just like this small angry son of a bitch who just wants to get his hands on you. Right. I can't wait for this main event. I mean, that is a star power main event.
Is it ever?
Break. Oh my gosh, man. And speaking of star power, right? I mean, there really is. I know that this is going to make Britt Baker upset. There really is no bigger star in AEW than Cody. If you don't believe me, check the action figure sales, my friends. Cody is the man. He sets the bar high. Every single time we see him, whether it's in the ring or on the mic, I think the standard for Cody has become so high that there are times in which we are left wondering, man, like how does it continue to hit that bar? Did this segment live up to those expectations for you, SPD? Where are you thinking? What are you thinking about this, the way this is going?
Well, I was thinking it as a two-parter. I mean, watching the AEW awards ahead of time or before the show, you saw Shaq take off his glasses and challenge Cody essentially to a Shaq attack anytime in March. So that's setting up hint, hint, hint to Cody versus Shaq, or maybe a mixed tag type of match. And a Cody responds segment turned into a Arn Anderson Red Velvet promo, which I didn't expect. And so, Red Velvet came out and Arn did an outstanding job, really, promoting her and putting her over, and seeing her on Dark last night. She's got some great intensity. It's going to be a humongous uphill battle for someone like her versus Jade, just about the pure size difference if they go one-on-one. If it's a mixed tag match or two separate one-on-ones, it'll be interesting how they decide to book it. But I loved how Arn Anderson, how she has the fire, and then she came out. So it's really helping establish Red Velvet as a force to be reckoned with, because I know early on she wasn't really getting booked that good. She wasn't, on a winless,
quite a losing streak. Yes.
Quite a losing streak. And now that the new year, she's really turned the tide, and it feels like she's more comfortable in the ring. She's got some nice athleticism, and how she said, what did she said? I'm gonna stir your bitch ass up. So
she's always in the kitchen, baby.
That's right.
No, I'm gonna say Dynamite Download is partially responsible for Red Velvet's push here, because after we had our interview with Thunder Rosa, where Thunder Rosa specifically said that Red Velvet is somebody that keep your eye out on for, and ever since that, her star power has been going through the roof. So hey, let me dream. Maybe it had something to do with us. But that said, I'm gonna say honestly, when you get praise like that from somebody like an industry veteran, somebody who we have so much respect for, like Thunder, even through a losing streak, we as fans are intrigued by what does somebody like that see in her, right? So It made me want to look. It made me watch her matches with a different lens and start to see, all right, wins or losses aside, what does this woman bring to the table? And that's one of the things I watched. I'm a big Maddie Rankowski fan. I watched AEW Dark, and that match was quite short, but it was definitive that Red Velvet came out on top. And I think that Red Velvet is showing she's strong. She's technically very sound in a lot of ways. I don't want to carelessly throw this out there, but she kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Serena Deeb type, where very, very sound overall technical approach. I feel like she can have a match with a variety of different body types. I'm intrigued to see this David versus Goliath battle that's going to end up happening, where I think it's going to end up being a mixed tag. And if you put Cody in Red Velvet, even though Cody's put on 19 pounds of muscle in 3 weeks, he's still so small compared to Shaq. You're going to have Shaq and Jade against Cody and Red Velvet, and that visual is going to be one of those that even a casual fan is going to be like, holy smokes. They're going to tower over. Yeah. Shaq and Jade are going to tower over Cody and Red Velvet. And I think that that's going to be it's going to work out really well. Obviously this is going to be a nice rub for Red Velvet in the long term as a babyface. I think that her standing up for Brandy, her pushing back, not letting Jade continue to be the bully of the women's division. There's something organic happening here. And when you get paired with Cody, your upside is unlimited. So I'm a fan. I'm intrigued. I know that this one's a controversial storyline. I think that right now, I think they're playing. AEW is doing a nice job of not shoving it down our throats, not force feeding this to us every single week, and making it feel like this is the biggest. I don't know about you, SPD, but this isn't even in the top 3 feuds going on right now.
No, and it works though.
It works. And that's a compliment, right? To me, it's a compliment to say that Cody, at the star that he is, can step back a little bit and allow his platform to help elevate someone like Red Velvet, we've talked a lot about the women's division needing to establish more credible stars, and specifically baby faces, specifically good guys. I mean, obviously we know Britt Baker is a definitive, and then you have Abaddon. You have some real stars as far as the heels in that group go, Nyla Rose and things like that.
You're right.
It's nice to see them trying to invest in some baby faces in the women's division. I think that Red Velvet's going to get a nice rub out of this.
That's right. And we saw, speaking of another fresh face in the ring, we saw Hangman Adam Page take on Ryan Nemeth, the Hollywood Hunk. You know, it's the Cowboy versus the Hollywood Hunk in this one. And Hangman finally getting another, singles match, and where he was really shining. I mean, this guy can work with a team. He can work solo. He can carry a match. He can carry a team. I mean, this guy's got it all. You know, his in-ring work was very great tonight, as always, as expected. You know, he had a very nice spine buster, and that buckshot lariat finisher. Still, man, every time I see it, I love it. It's very skillful.
It's a sweet finish.
Yeah, it is a great finish. And, I was impressed. It was a good pairing. I wish it would have gone maybe a little bit longer of the match, but it was nice to see Ryan Nemeth. Obviously, he's the brother of Dolph Ziggler from WWE. I could definitely see at least a lot of Dolph isms,
of course.
Similar trunks, similar ways he sells.
That's a huge compliment, though.
Yeah, I mean, Dolph Ziggler is one of the biggest best sellers in the
history of the business. Honest to God, as a diehard fan, I mean, that dude can sell his off. So I think that, I mean, right there is a great example too. I mean, the commitment to selling. I don't know. I think that the guy is clearly, his athleticism was on display tonight.
It was, and Hangman looked strong, and then the whole match and whole segment was interesting. As just soon as the match started, you get Big Money Mac come out, and you're wondering what this is all about. Is he going for the newest, hottest thing, Hangman? And yes, sure enough, after the match, we heard him talk all about it. Before we get into the post-match stuff, I will still give this match an elite.
Okay.
Because Hangman to me is an outstanding in-ring performer, and he a guy who's making his AEW debut, looked very comfortable in the ring. I know he's not a pure rookie, but he looked comfortable in the ring with a veteran like Hangman, and I was entertained the whole time, and there was no commercial break, and for me it's an elite.
Honestly, when I look at the big picture of this show, we tend to be very positive here at Dynamite Download. That's what we try to pride ourselves on. But this match felt to me like it was probably the weakest of the night, and that's not. I mean, if this is your weakest match on a card, you're doing really well. This is not a slam on that match in that way, but this is gonna get a delete from me. The main reason why, honestly, I liked some of the Road to stuff that I saw out of Ryan Nemeth. I liked how he made it known that he was kind of a cast off from WWE, and that he's tired of being in his brother's shadow. I liked that. I thought that was well played and well done. But I will say that there were moments when, and like you mentioned, it felt like this was kind of cut short a little bit at some points. And I just didn't see anything that jumped out as like, wow, this match really stood out to me in any way. Like, Hangman is always a bankable commodity. If you're a Hangman fan, you're going to love this match. He's delivered all his greatest hits. But I felt like this was kind of one of those matches that was a placeholder, and really it was more meant to serve the post match than anything else.
That's for sure. And it's one that I did not expect. And, we are in unanimous agreement. This Big Money Matt Hardy that we're seeing is some of the best work that he's been doing in a long, long time, both on AEW and Impact when he does show up. And so I absolutely love this. I don't know if it's going to go down that rabbit hole again where, it's just this constant recruit, but it really just is messing with Hangman's head. Clearly he's a anxious millennial cowboy and just very torn between a lot of things. And Matt pointed out he's changing next to catering, he's changing in the hallway, he doesn't have a locker room, he's this loner, so that's kind of the appeal that the Dark Order had for this. And now Matt Hardy is seeing it and even calling it out even more. So I don't know, Hangman seems more comfortable and focused in the ring, but when he post match and not in the ring, he's this I think feel like depressed or just lost soul, lost lamb looking for a home.
Yeah, and if you were gonna have me judge the post match stuff, it would get an elite.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep my focus only on that, and it's just like when I look at what they're trying to do here, you mentioned it a couple weeks ago how you felt like maybe we saw it on BTE. Matt was getting some text messages. He might be recruiting other people to his services. I certainly find that is intriguing. And for Hangman, it's almost like you're getting pulled in two different directions. And I think most people can relate to this. There's that emotional part of you that wants to hang out with your friends or be like, do what feels good.
Right.
Like the Dark Order clearly are a bunch of positive guys who are funny and really care about trying to like lift up Hangman and realize like John Silver, his recruitment of Hangman when he was just gushing about how much he loves the guy. So there's that side versus business, and Matt, Big Money Matt is going to be, I think, playing to that business side of Hangman. Like, dude,
there's big money there. That's for sure. I know that.
You're a big star. We can make you a world champion. Let's make that money together. I think that there's gonna that sort of torn, pulling Hangman in a bunch of different directions is gonna be intriguing television, like Days of Our Lives, total soap opera type of stuff.
It'll just make some more great storylines in BTE. I know you had to be geeking out about this one. Half of the FTR, Dax Harwood wearing your FTR shirt there.
Oh, baby.
Versus Jungle Boy. And they added this extra stipulation, which was very interesting. It really worked well for Luchasaurus to be handcuffed to the rest of FTR and Tully Blanchard. And I love this match. I mean, we expected great things out of this, and it delivered and then some. It was definitely a show-stealing match and performance for both these guys. We've seen Jungle Boy as singles action in the past, and he's wowed us, and he's done very well. And Dax, this is his first time seeing a singles match in AEW, and he wowed us. And so it was a ground and pound type of match. It was high energy. There was a bunch of chop battles, which we always love a good chop. There was a story in and out of the ring and after the match. It was a great match overall. Jungle Boy showed some great strength, some great maneuvers he was doing, and I love the power bomb off the ropes that Dax does into the pin. That's a fun move. And so, overall, this match was everything you wanted and then some. I mean, you got to be geeking out and just
brother,
at the mouth for this one.
I can be gushing about this match. This was a pre-tape show, and there was a lot of rumors on. So I mean, on Twitter, I'm always checking out. There was a lot of people talking about how the AEW team, the locker room, they were really geeked about this match, and they felt like this was one of those matches that were going to blow some people's minds. And it was, even with that, like, kind of, okay, my expectations are high. I'm already naturally a huge fan of Dax and Cash.
Right.
And then you get that, you're like, oh man. And then our interactions with Dax on social, he's talked a lot about seeing potential on Jungle Boy. And we've even talked about, Griff Garrison in his interview with us talked about what a leader Dax is in the locker room and stuff like that. So it was obvious to me that Dax sort of had this personal investment in making sure that not only this was an awesome match, but that Jungle Boy ended up looking the way, like, I think he wanted to showcase Jungle Boy's skills in this one.
Right.
And more than anything, when you see the way these two went at each other, it was such a blend of styles. You could tell Dax, like, his leadership and his planning and his smarts. I've always loved this about FTR, man. Those guys are true, like, scholars of wrestling. Like, they're historians of wrestling. And JR said it best on commentary. JR has been a commentator for over 30 years in wrestling. And he was dating back to the 70s. JR was saying in any era that I've seen, Dax would be over. Dax would be a star in any era that I've called. And I think that is the ultimate compliment to a guy like Dax. I know that he is going to wear that with a badge of honor because, he is he's always prided himself on being old school.
Mm-hmm.
FTR they've always talked about no flips, just fists. They love and they pride themselves on understanding wrestling. Yes, right. we love ourselves, the Ray Phoenixes of the world and, the Kenny Omegas of the world, all these guys who can do these incredible athletic feats. But at the end of the day, you don't have to do those things in order to get us invested as fans.
True.
I'm telling you, brother, like, I could watch Dax bully Jungle Boy into a side headlock and geek out. There were moments when I know that Cash and Tully were handcuffed to Luchasaurus today. I was literally saying, handcuff me to my couch and let me just watch this on repeat, man. Like, this match was incredibly well done. The psychology of the match, that was my favorite part, SPD. I know that you always enjoy when a match feels real, like when it's purposeful, right? Like, you could see you don't see those awkward pauses, like you're waiting for a move to happen and things like that. And this match delivered that.
It definitely did. It like I said earlier, it definitely it blew me. It blew out my expectations for sure. I had a feeling this could have been a show stealer, and it definitely was. I was a little surprised by the ending, just because of all the trash talking that FTR was doing. But once again, Jungle Boy coming out on top. It is a great way to build up Jurassic Express and Jungle Boy. Mm-hmm. But when you get into the post-match antics, I forgot about Jungle Boy winning. And then this just solidified how much of a heel and how much of a threat that FTR is. I mean, when you have the pile driver by Tully off the top rope.
That was awesome.
That was great. And then the ultimate
cutting off the horns.
I mean, you get the dinosaurs dehorned. I mean, that is the ultimate slap in the face for someone. I mean, we talked about it with Britt Baker washing the paint off Thunder Rosa's face, which she said on our interview, or a Lucha brother or Lucha, getting his mask taken pulled off. This is as bad as it gets for someone like Luchasaurus. And, I've been a huge fan of Luchasaurus for a long time. I think his in-ring work is awesome. I mean, the guy can kick, he can flip, he can powerbomb, he can do it all. And he's over 10 million years old. So, I mean, he's in great shape for his age.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And that's the thing about FTR. Again, I'm going to pull it back to my guys. Dax tapped out clean, but he didn't lose an ounce of heat.
Right. I forgot all about it.
Immediately after that match, he and Cash and Tully were able to establish just how despicable they are. I mean, like, it just, not only does it make us hate them that much more and look at what despicable heels they are, but it makes us want to root for Jurassic Express that much more. It goes back to the manipulation of the feelings and the emotions of the fans, and being able to do that in a ring through your in-ring storytelling. That's one of the things I love the most about my favorite wrestlers. All are able to do those things, and right. FTR does it better than anybody, man. This is without a doubt an elite from me. This, honestly, I saw people talking about SPD. This might be blasphemy to you. I know that you were there live. You got to see Ray Phoenix versus Kenny Omega. But I saw people talking about this being a potential match of the year for AEW already, competing with Kenny and Ray Phoenix. And obviously, yes, it does not have the stakes that match had. It wasn't a world title match. It wasn't a main event. Those types of things. Absolutely understand that. But if we're removing those circumstances, and you look at the way these two went at each other, Jungle Boy was, I think, established that much more as he shut Dax up. You talked about it. Dax and FTR were talking a lot of smack I don't know, man. I'm going to go back and watch this one again. It was that good. Really, I mean, when you talk about a blend of, you mentioned athletic, I mean, the power bomb off, like this, like basically the springboard power bomb almost, like you have technical moves, the bodying that Dax put throughout this, man. He was like, you could tell he was talking trash throughout this match. He was trying to make it personal. And at the end of this one, this feud feels very personal now. I mean, I'm very excited about where this is going to go.
Yeah, and it was, I loved, you're talking about moves that, Jungle Boy started doing the suplex city, man. That was cool that he was doing the hold on suplexes. So that was just showing how his strength in all this. And this was Bonds' biggest moment as well for the whole show. Man. So he is a very smart man. So let's listen to Bonds' biggest moment right now.
Hey everybody, Bonds here with my biggest moment of the week. And what a good performance from Jungle Boy tonight. He earned my biggest moment for that clean win over Dax Harwood. And while afterwards Jurassic Express was attacked and belittled by FTR, I think that this was a huge moment for Jungle Boy as a singles competitor. It showed that he's able to do it against stiff competition because Dax Harwood is a grizzled veteran who a lot of people respect in this business. And I think having Jungle Boy win against Dax is a pretty big indicator that AEW thinks this kid is a star. And I think that's very important that they're able to build somebody like him, and it's working and it's over and it's great. And it was such a good match tonight. That was just on top peak performance from both guys. Dax, hats off to you as well. Just a great match in general. And I want your guys' thoughts on this because I think this was clearly the best, most consistent match of the night, and I think both these guys deserve credit.
Don said it very well, SPD. I mean, I'm not going to get tired of hearing other people praise my favorite people in the company. FTR is amazing. I will say that this did very much feel like the coronation of Jungle Boy in a lot of ways. I think Dax really put in the work, and I mean, obviously, credit to Jungle Boy. That kid is phenomenal in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I want to rewatch this match and again because there's a lot of things you could have missed and more in-depth storytelling that we can see about. But we talked about FTR being, a tag team, and we saw them in singles matches today. Here at Dynamite Download, we are doing a mock #1 contender tag team tournament, and we're going to announce the finals now. So advancing to the finals, we have FTR beating Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy as a tag team combination, advancing to the finals. And we have I would call an upset of Private Party coming out on top against the Lucha Brothers, which to me is my top tag team. So we will announce on this Friday night, Flights and Fights, the winner of our mock #1 contender tag team tournament. It'll be FTR versus a red hot team in Private Party. And so this could go either way. I mean, both guys are riding a big wave right now.
And it's another example, right, of like you got such a great clash of like you have these veterans who have been through the world and really pride themselves on a grinded out, beat 'em up style versus these young kids who really like haven't even touch the tip of the iceberg for their potential in their career, who have made a name for themselves off of high flying acrobatics. It's just one of those like total, just like hitting each other with totally different philosophies and experiences and everything. That match would be incredible. What a finals that would be. You get the #1 contenders for Impact Championships. Potentially could be the #1 contenders for the Impact and AEW Championships. Can you imagine that? That would be unbelievable. Certainly exciting. Tag team wrestling is what makes AEW so incredibly special. And I like more than anything that AEW does not shy away from groups. They do not. We talk about this at length. Friendship-based wrestling is a good thing.
Right.
Allowing these people to live and breathe and have relationships and like that's a reflection of real life. And so it's really cool to see teams and different factions forming. And right now there is no bigger faction than Team Taz. Even as Inner Circle fans and things like that, there is no faction in AEW who is commanding your attention, your respect quite like Team Taz. I mean, you see Willie Hobbs and those guys just tossing people around, just having a blast, throwing people into guardrails, into trucks. It was unbelievable.
There was so much that happened in such a short amount of time with this. It was amazing. They went on an absolute tear. I loved how they just see all this Sting and Darby merch over there, and they're like, "Oh no, we're
Took
not
it personally.
big bullies."
Yeah.
I mean, Cage, if you can kind of see this, he threw someone halfway up the side of that truck. Ricky Starks throws someone through a table. Willie Hobbs throws someone over a guardrail. Hook gets involved. And then, of course, you get Taz just kind of leading the charge like the Godfather role that we want to see Jericho do. And, he's just going to say that they're going to beat your ass, in the street fight. So, man.
Seeing Cage rip the T-shirt in half.
Yeah, that was
like,
great.
And like Willie Hobbs, it's nice to see him getting physical involved on this because dude, when you watch him on Dark, you just see what this kid is capable of. I mean, he is.
He tore it up last night on Dark.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, being like for him, just whipping people around like he did, it was nice seeing him get physical. I think that Team Taz is always a blast. They're a bunch of jerks. But I'm excited to see where this one goes, man. Like that's a street fight. Do you have Team Taz lose? I keep obviously
going back and forth with this one.
They're such a hot team, but they have historically not. I mean, like Cage came up short against Darby. I mean, do you have them lose again?
You can't. I don't think you bring Sting in just to lose. So if it wasn't involving Sting, I think Team Taz would be coming out on top. But you don't bring someone as
the
nostalgic.
Icon. He's the icon
as Sting to lose. So
that's fair.
They're not ready for that kind of dethroning of the icon. That being said, I don't think they're going to be losing any steam. I don't think they're going to come out looking weak, just as Brian Cage did not come out looking weak or losing any momentum. He was our top performer. That New Year's Smash Night 2, he was an absolute beast. But I know this one that we've been really looking forward to. Britt Baker was in ring action against Shanna and really prepping up for next week's head-to-head feud that we have long awaited for against Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, and in typical Britt Baker fashion, she always finds a way to just talk enough trash that every match or segment she's in is exciting. On social, she was talking about how if Shanna beats her, she'll buy Shanna new gear. Shanna needs new gear. Just Britt has a way of just making everybody. She's hilarious. She's such a great follow on social media. Just quite a blast. And you could see she's really living and like she's embracing this DMD persona on a whole nother level, man. Like she's just a star every time she steps on out there. I said it tonight though. Britt gets a lot of credit for what her ability to talk. She definitely talks a lot of trash. But I think that people are starting to come around to what an in-ring performer Britt Baker is. This was a good example of that, and I can't wait for Beach Break. I think that Thunder Rosa is the perfect opponent to really showcase what Britt Baker is made of. Yeah,
it's going to be on an outstanding clash, and we've been preaching it. We're going to say it every time we can. We were hoping this was going to be the main event, which was deservedly so for these two performers with Thunder and Britt. But when they got announced that new main event, we understand why it's not. But you look at the card, and right now there's only 3 matches, and those are 3 humongous matches. You got the tag team battle royal, you have Thunder and Britt, and then you got a big 6-man tag. There's nothing more announced other than the Miro or the Kip wedding. So this is huge. All eyes are going to be on that match, and rightfully so. And so just this match first before, Thunder came in and and beat us, or came in and scared Britt Baker and Rebel away. And it was a good match. It was well paced. And the only gripe I have again is the stupid picture-in-picture, man. I just can't stand the picture-in-picture. They always do that to the women's matches. I feel like it's a consistent thing. But I like the finish, and we got to see both these performers on Dark last night, and both of them had really good outings. And Shanna surprised me with her match and her intensity. And I think she had a better match last night on Dark than she faced against Britt. And so It was a worthy competitor that Britt put down, and I think
13-year veteran. They talked about that tonight, and
and you could
Britt
tell she
found
was comfortable in the ring. Like,
yes,
yeah. And this match for me, I'm judging this as an overall segment. It's an elite segment for me. You know, we were, kind of on the edge of our seat, waiting for something to happen, waiting for Thunder to show up, waiting for the lightning and thunder to strike. And it sure enough did. I was hoping for more of a beatdown and some kind of that, but in true heel fashion,
they ran off.
And then kind of did a nana boo boo and, from a distance, kind of rub it in their face. So, this segment overall is an elite. I love just the way that kind of Jericho did, looking for the camera for the finish, eyes into the camera Britt had, and then boom, hits the finish in for the tap out. And then after the match again, looking for the camera, looking for those spots. That just makes it so much more powerful.
Yep. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because those are the little nuances, those little things about a performer that might not get highlighted and might not get the credit that it should. But that shows, like, when you're always on and you know how to play to the crowd, that's another level of performance. That's another level of being comfortable, being confident, being always prepared. You can tell that Britt is incredibly obviously she's a dentist, but she's incredibly intelligent as a wrestler. And that's what I love about her offense, her skill set. Tonight's match, it was mostly one-sided, as it should be, allowing Britt to get that work in and really showcase that tenacity, that aggression that Tony Schiavone talked about, her best friend talked about at length at commentary, that, like, Britt has very few rivals when it comes to, like, her level of nastiness that she brings to a match. Like, you could tell, like, she enjoys humiliating her opponent. She enjoys rubbing it in, and that has that nasty edge that she brings. And you wouldn't guess that from, when you look at, like, obviously intelligent, beautiful, well-spoken woman, like, carries herself like a star. But when she gets in the ring, it's like a flip switch. And she's just, like, got this anger. She has this, I don't know if it's like she wants to prove the world wrong. I don't know what it is, man, but, like, she adds a little extra oomph to a lot of moves. And I really enjoy seeing Britt continue to flourish in that way. I really hope that, again, this match itself, it gets an elite because it was meant to establish Britt as the in-ring, like, her dominance in ring before she meets Thunder at Beach Break. And it did that in spades, right? But I really do believe, and this is why we've been beating the table for it so much over the last few months, Thunder Rosa is such a natural baby face. Having her go against Britt Baker, Thunder, we talked about this in our interview with her. She's got that MMA background, and she brings that tenacity, that focus, that fire to the ring. And you put that in the ring with Britt. I really think that both of these women are going to come out looking incredible after that match. I cannot wait. As a fan of both of them, I think this is going to take their careers to another level. It's going to catapult them to a whole nother level.
I completely agree, man. We've been preaching it for a long time. It's going to be an outstanding match. And one more thing, I just, as soon as I heard Thunder's song, I was thinking, like, yep, I'd be running for the hills too, because she's coming at 100 miles per hour for you.
I'm coming for you, Britt.
I know. So I don't blame her for running away, Britt Baker, after hearing that theme song, because I would be too. She's someone that is she's coming at you full speed. She's a scary person, man, and with the intensity.
No doubt. Well, let's transition to the next moment here, because we were talking about superstar, like, taking their career to another level with Britt and Thunder. And when I look at what's going on, the seeds that are being planted, and the way this Inner Circle storyline is starting to play out, it's very clear. Even though we love Wardlow and we picked him as one of our breakout stars of 2021, the tea leaves are starting to show. Sammy G is primed to explode in 2021. I mean, this segment alone was such a highlight. It's rare where you're in a promo battle with MJF and you more than hold your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And you know, he was our top performer of Dynamite last week for a reason.
Yep.
You know, with the overall show, with his promo work and his in-ring work, and tonight, man, he really had a powerful segment with what he had to say, and he's going to be very easy to root for coming very soon. You know, him and whenever that comes as Sammy versus MJF, it's going to be an outstanding battle. And I'm calling it now that Sammy is going to beat MJF.
I like it. I
And
like the prediction.
It's going to be a huge notch on MJF's record. And so two young stars that are the core of AEW going to go head to head. That is going to be must-see TV. And Sammy is definitely, like you said, holding his own, you know, with the promo work. And that is tough to do against someone like MJF. And it's going to be outstanding feud.
And not only hold your own on the mic, but it's clear that he's being presented as an intellectual equal as MJF. And MJF throughout his career, you can say whatever you want, he has consistently proven to be able to outsmart people on the regular, right? Like it's easy for him. Like I've talked about it. Like it feels like one of those old school, like everybody else is playing checkers and MJF is playing chess. Yep. And that dude is always scheming. He's always plotting, always one or two steps ahead. But Sammy has really, he's never been duped all along, man. Like he's always seen MJF's inner character was there. And I think that portraying MJF as like an intelligent baby face is a good thing. A lot of times baby faces are kind of like the plucky underdogs who kind of they get into situations that are 5-on-1 and things like that. Sammy is presented as an intelligent. He's presented as more than willing to take on and challenge Jericho in the past. He's already stood up to Jericho at times, standing up to MJF, standing on his own 2 feet, being his own man. I think that they're planting some serious babyface vibes with Sammy. And when they finally do get to that MJF Sammy match that we're all waiting for, it's going to be mind blowing. That said, again, I know that MJF thinks that we're the drizzling shits. But when we talk about that, think about it, man. Like how many conversations have we had where it's like, man, when Wardlow turns on MJF, like he's going to be primed for a huge babyface run. Oh, when Sammy fights MJF, he's going to be primed for a huge babyface run. Like, let's give MJF his due. Give the devil his due. He is so good at being bad that you can naturally pair pretty much anybody against him and you're going to root for him because you just want to see MJF get punched in the face.
You do, like Griff Garrison wanted to do, and he did. I mean, MJF is a drizzling shit. No one wants to be a part of that, or no one wants to have that. And so it's easy to root for the opposite of that. So yes, when Sammy turns baby, hopefully, and Wardlow as well. I mean, those are anyone Wardlow, against him, it's easy to root for.
With Wardlow, he talks about he's the worst employee that I've ever had. I docked his pay. It's just like MJF is so easily a douche. He's just such a jerk, and he's so easy to root against. He's really good at what he does. That's all I'm going to say. Moving on to people who are very good at what they do. You're talking about tag team champs of 2 companies being in the same group, potentially the Bullet Club. I don't know how that's working out right now. Certainly a weird vibe going around the Bullet Club with, Don Callis trying to push the Young Bucks away and Kenny being mad at them. And now this, like, it was definitely an interesting segment. But you get to see the tag team champions of Impact and AEW on the same crew. And although we're big dark, this is still January, so this is still Join Dark Order January. Throw it up.
I will. It is, and it's still time to recruit, and we are definitely recruiting in still full mode. So we still got the rest of the week, so to recruit for more people to join Dark Order. I'll dive right into this. What I really liked about this was that, there's some very heavy turmoil going on with the Young Bucks and Don and Kenny. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that. And I really like how they did this again, where they do straight to promo, straight to entrance. I think that's kind of a cool, behind the curtain type of thing, how they did that. But, I don't know if you caught it, but you had Young Bucks coming out the babyface tunnel and the Good Brothers coming out the heel tunnel. And so there's a little bit of that. And what I thought was also great that the announcers were pointing out how that the Dark Order is essentially the home team for AEW. And they talked about a year ago from now how they would have never thought this. They were not thinking of this. The growth of the Dark Order is one that has been, all Brody Lee aside and everything, unfortunately, what happened that, they are growing naturally, organically, as individuals, as tag teams, as a group. I mean, you look at these 8 individuals right here. They were outstanding. The chemistry with them, you could see the chemistry with all 4 of these guys in the ring, whether it be obviously John Silver and Alex Reynolds being the recruitment special team and Uno and Stu being a team, but they kept flip-flopping with awesome tandem moves. And It was a lot of fun to watch. This match was, had it all. It was so high paced. It was sometimes hard to follow, and everything about it was great. I loved it. And it was a perfect way to close out the show.
Well, we talked about this too, SPD. You mentioned the Dark Order being the home team and how unexpected that is. I mean, we were planning to join Dark Order January here at Dynamite Download before the unfortunate and untimely passing of Brody. And so much of that was because we truly believe that the Dark Order, I mean, I'll say it myself. I am a perfect example of someone that did a complete 180 on that group. And the main reason why is because of the work that those guys put in. Like the BTE stuff that they did, it needs to be recognized. I mean, though, like the character work that they've done, John Silver is now, to me, one of the undeniable superstars of AEW. I mean, like, and you think about how far that group has come from being like this weird cult, like of losers, right? Like to now being these
main eventers.
They're hilarious. They're no longer like these bad guys that you're rooting against. They're actually quite the opposite. They're this group of like people that you want to hang out with. I mean,
for sure.
We've seen the personalities. 10 is so active on social, and he really basically gives everybody an interview once a week, at least with his Q&As. There's so much to like about this team outside of the ring. And then when you see them get in the ring, SPD, I'll let you jump in on this, but you've talked about it. The Dark Order has 3 real tag teams that you're very impressed by.
I am.
And the chemistry that the recruitment specialists show is one thing, but like you've told me many times how impressed you are with Evil Uno and Stu Grayson as a tandem.
I definitely am. And, that says a lot because the Young Bucks, to me, can never put on a bad match. And I'm very, very high on the Young Bucks, and they're the champs for the reason. That being said, anytime I see Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, I mean, they were at the top of the tag team ranks for a reason, and they're very underrated, underappreciated. Their chemistry and in-ring work. I mean, you just saw Stu tonight bouncing off the ropes, and he was like bouncing, springboard, bouncing, and then he does this humongous frog splash, and the power that he has, he's a strong guy. And Evil Uno, doesn't necessarily fit a typical wrestler build, but the stuff he can do and the tandem work and stuff was very impressive.
Yep.
And of course, my boy John Silver, who I absolutely love, put on a star performance, in my opinion, just not backing down from
calling him out.
I know, big gallows. And then he went on an absolute tear. He hit all 4 guys. He did the cannonball. It was a Bullet Club obstacle course. That's what the announcers are saying for it. It was nonstop action with that. And Johnny was hungry, and everyone, and he was, trying to get fed all match. And this was a very well-paced match. It was, all over the place as expected with a Young Bucks style.
A lot of action.
8 guys in a ring is a lot to handle. It was never slow. It was well paced. It was a great finish, and a lot of great false finishes. That 3-way power bomb on the apron was brutal. And oh man, and then the 4-way super kick just to end it was just, oh man, that of the match for sure. Elite for me, this Dynamite I was really looking forward to overall. And so, sometimes I'm a little bit harder critic on certain things, but it was an elite across the board.
You loved this show.
I did love this show.
Yeah, that's awesome,
how could you not when you start with the Murder Hawk Monster and Eddie Kingston, and you end with the Dark Order and Young Bucks? And so, I mean, it's an elite sandwich.
Well, SPD, I gotta say, brother, you and I have talked about before this week's episode how on BTE the Good Brothers, and how easy they are to dislike. There's such a great contrast to the Dark Order, who are these lovable, funny good guys. The Good Brothers quite enjoy being like detestable jerks. Like they love just beating people up. They're very like kind of like old school in that regard. It's a great natural pairing of those, of like different dichotomies of life in that regard. Like just I liked it. I thought that this is not as this one's not as emphatic of an elite for me, only because I'm still coming around to the Good Brothers a little bit. I'm going to be honest. I've seen their work long before AEW and Impact. I've seen it. I know what they can do. I know what they're capable of. Everybody's got their own cup of tea when it comes to tag teams or wrestlers in general, right? Where you're allowed to have your opinion, and not everybody's going to be your favorite. The Good Brothers I'm still trying to figure out where they fit into all this. And I was thrown off as a fan who's invested very much into it. I was thrown off a little bit as to like the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers just all of a sudden getting along. And
I thought there'd be more
tension.
Right. And maybe like an accidental super kick or something like that.
Exactly. I was actually expecting that. I know that you got a team of 2 tag teams champions on one side. I could have seen a potential upset, a feel good moment at the end, like because of the dissension, right? Like I was almost expecting like a super kick, kind of like, and then you plant that seed of them fighting the Good Brother, all that stuff, right? So as a fan who's really much invested, I was a little conflicted on that because there was really no moment during this match where you felt like, man, these guys might these 2 teams might come to blows with each other. After what we saw last week with the Young Bucks kind of being bodied out of Kenny Omega's inner circle, I was expecting a little bit more out of that. So that's my one criticism of the match. I was from a storyline perspective and somebody who loves psychology in a match, it didn't really fit that for me as much as I was hoping for but that said, if I'm looking at the overall experience, just like the fun that we got to see in the ring, man, like I don't know how you could ask for more action than that. I mean,
you really can't.
It was just every moment you're seeing somebody get knocked to the outside. You just constant back and forth. And again, the Dark Order shows an ability to do tandem offense like that. It's just awesome to watch. It's fun to see them in action. At the end of this match, I'll give an elite. But I'm a little soft.
Giving us suspense there.
A little soft elite from Crayfish.
No way, man. With Johnny being so hungry, that's an elite for me alone.
I love the Dark Order. I've come around full circle, like full circle on them. Like I'm a big fan of them now. But
what I want to say is, like, it kind of was interesting how Young Bucks are going to be in their own battle royal for the number 1 contenders, and they laid that groundwork. I don't feel like they would lay that groundwork if they weren't going to win and pick their opponents. So that just tells me maybe they're going to pick the Good Brothers to face at Revolution, kind of who's at the top of the top, so if they do go that way where the Young Bucks do win the battle royal and they pick their partners, I think they'll pick the either the Good Brothers to kind of further this, or if they want to really lean into the heel, they'll pick like a squash match just for
maybe
fun.
Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss.
I don't know what they're gonna do.
Maybe something like that. But
the post-match stuff, was amazing. I loved it. When Ray Phoenix came out, I think he got about 50 feet in the air off the ropes, and then the double kick. Oh, it was so great.
My favorite moment of the post-match was the paradigm shift to Kenny Omega, dude.
And the cell.
He was the cell. Yes. I know that I'm not the only one who is like That's the best sell of a paradigm shift I've ever seen. Dude, Kenny was like literally straight,
I
like
know.
vertical. And then he looked dead after he took it. He was just like, it was done. That was phenomenal. Post match certainly gets us hyped for Beach Break. I think that stipulation is interesting. And like you said, it plants a seed for, do the Young Bucks win? Do they come out on top of this battle royal?
Right.
I'm personally hoping no. I would love to see
a new team.
different team come out. But obviously this war of Impact versus AEW that we're seeing, and obviously the dissension in the Bullet Club, it's naturally a great story if they end up going that route. The best of the best going against each other. It would be a very fascinating matchup. We're talking about the best of the best. Who was the best of the best tonight on a all elite, all AEW Dynamite for you, SPD?
That's a mouthful for sure.
Yeah.
My top performer of the night is none other than the Murder Hawk Monster, Lance Archer. And it is not surprising at all, I'm sure, for anybody, because he put on quite the killer performance. And it was, no pun intended there. It's strange not strange, but it just shows a testament to the storytelling that both guys who got technically a loss are our top performers.
Weird.
Lance Archer is someone that we love to root for. He is just going on a tear. He is on a mission. His power and his agility is so fun to watch. And so after he put on that performance to start the show, it was a top, I had that in my mind. It was a tough one to overcome as a solo performance of the night.
Yeah, and like we've been advocates for Lance from day one here at Dynamite Download, but even you and I can say he's hitting another gear, another level of that we haven't seen out of him. He's really pushing himself to a whole new peak that we've never seen. I'm really impressed with Lance Archer, and I'm not surprised that he was your pick. That match was hard hitting. It's definitely an SPD style match. Chops galore, power moves left and right. It felt like a fight, as Eddie Kingston promised.
Right.
And your top performer shouldn't be a surprise, and my top performer shouldn't be a surprise. I've been waiting to bust out my FTR shirt on this show for a while now. I will say again, Jungle Boy. I know that the way this match was planned in Dax's mind, especially after talking to Griff Garrison, this was Dax's goal to make Jungle Boy look like $1 million, and he did that. Jungle Boy came out looking phenomenal in this, but to me, man, Dax is. You talked about it. We've seen Jungle Jack Perry in singles competition quite a bit, but for AEW fans to see Dax in this kind of showcase as a singles performer, I felt like I think that he really impressed a lot of people tonight. And even as a diehard FTR fan, it's so different pacing a match, planning a match, wrestling a match where you're going solo the whole time versus a tag match, right? So I got to give that guy so much credit for his smarts, his psychology, his ability to plan and work through that match, dude, and play such a great foil to Jungle Boy. He was such he played that like you think you're ready, boy. He kept you think you're ready for me, boy. He kept leaning into that. Great character work by Dax tonight. They got their heat back after that match. I feel like you and I talked about earlier on. He, although he lost and tapped out clean to Jungle Boy, at the end of the night, we're remembering.
You're talking about FTR. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. So
it was a win-win for sure.
Yeah, amen.
And speaking of win-win, I think we're all going to win next week at Beach Break with this stacked card. I mean, there's not a lot announced overall, but it's a lot of effective and humongous matches and stipulations, you know, if this was just the whole card, I'm going to be very happy. But we know AEW, they're not just going to give you just this. They're going to load in another 5 or 6 segments as much as they can. And they literally use every second of showtime that they have. So, I mean, we got the Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian wedding. This is, you know, all coming ahead, where it's since Miro debuted as the best man. So finally we're getting a wedding where Miro is going to be the best man. Where it goes from here, we'll find out.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the reasons why I'd be so okay if this just was the card for next week is that it means that we're going to give Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker plenty of time. Those girls should get a 15 to 20 minute showcase. There's no doubt that match should go, and that should be featured. So we finally get to see the culmination of the hottest feud in AEW, the feud that we've been chatting about every single week. Cannot wait for Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker.
The tag team battle royal, you know, I took a photo of it because I wanted to look back on it and some of the teams that are going to be involved. So I don't know if you saw it. It's not a good photo, so I'm not going to put it up. But you have Top Flight, you have Private Party, Jurassic Express, Acclaimed, FTR, Young Bucks. You have the whole Inner Circle minus Wardlow back in action again. So are we going to see some Inner Circle turmoil again? And then you have Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, like we were talking about. So you have quite the star power in that battle royal. Anything can happen. Any team could really pull out an upset. I think we're going to see some Inner Circle turmoil stuff going on there. But my favorites, I mean, we'll find out. 2 of the teams that are in our number 1 contender battle royal that we made up are in there. So you got FTR and Private Party. So we're going to announce the winner of that might be the winner of that battle royal. So tune in.
Well, I like that. I like that. I have a feeling that our 2 teams are definitely going to be well represented in that battle royal. They're definitely trending in the right direction. I did not catch that FTR was in that battle royal though, and I was thinking maybe one of those matches they would sneak in here would be Cash versus Jungle Boy, because there's certainly a lot of people who are clamoring for more FTR versus Jurassic Express. But the 6-man tag is going to be next level when it comes to, I know you love yourself some Kenny Omega. I know it. Just
do I ever
get out the broom. I know you love yourself some Kenny Omega. Kenny and the Good Brothers are going to be going up against Jon Moxley, who we know cannot wait to get his hands on Kenny. You got Phoenix in there, who is, as you mentioned, at the end of tonight's show, really showed out. I know so many people, just every time that dude gets on the screen, man, his athleticism is ridiculous. And then you got PAC, who I think is every bit the equal of Kenny Omega. PAC is the man. That dude is a beast. He can do things that nobody else can. So I want to ask you, we're gonna end the show, but before we do, who do you have your money on in this match? Who's your favorite? You're doing Vegas betting odds, basically.
I think the way it's going to go is Moxley is going to pin Anderson.
Okay.
What about you?
I think that Phoenix is going to eat the pin.
Who's going to on Kenny?
Yeah, I think that Kenny. I think Kenny and the Good Brothers are going to win that one, unless some sort of shenanigans come in there. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be hard to derail the momentum that Kenny and the Good Brothers have right now.
Anything that involves Kenny and Don, it's going to be a swerve. There's going to be something we don't expect, and so
cannot wait for next week. Man.
Oh my gosh,
I can't wait. I know that AEW fans are chomping at the bit. Beach Break is like a pay-per-view. We're going to get it really live on Wednesday for free, guys. And you think about the month of January, we had New Year's Smash. We had 2 weeks of what felt like pay-per-views. And then going into February, AEW is giving us another, starting out the month with just like this killer card. I cannot wait to talk to all of our fans out there. AEW fans are so passionate, so amazing. Please engage, guys, girls, share our stuff. If you're into it, what we're talking about here, share our content, share that YouTube link with your friends and family. Make sure you get on there, you subscribe to YouTube. We are breaking all sorts of new stuff, guys and girls. We are going to have some interviews coming your way very, very soon. Some
You
more
do not
interviews.
want to miss.
Cannot wait to share those with you. Make sure you're following us on Twitter on AEW Dynamite DL. You're going to be interacting with us on there. SPD, I say it every single week, brother. You kill it on Instagram. Our
Thank
Instagram
you.
page is beautiful. If you go on Instagram, just go to the Dynamite download and just start scrolling. SPD puts a lot of thought in those visuals. You do a beautiful job, brother. Really love that Instagram page. And then you can listen to this podcast either on YouTube or on Spotify. So
That's right.
if you're in the car, you're at the gym, throw it up on Spotify. Hit it up, man. So thank you guys and girls for joining us this week. You know that the team here at Dynamite Download is geeked for next week, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
So you cannot miss next week's show. Until then, we will talk to you on Twitter.